Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, wa hlul uqdatan min lisani, yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, I hope you all well today. We'll be going further into Python now. Just to check, does everybody have a little bit of background with Python, either from the last tutorial or from prior knowledge? Yeah? Okay. We'll start then, inshaAllah. We'll begin with a recitation from Afif.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم والذين سعوا في آياتنا معاجزين أولئك لهم عذاب من رجز أليم ويرى الذين أوتوا العلم الذي أنزل إليك من ربك هو الحق ويهدي إلى صراط العزيز الحميد. So he may reward those who believe and do good. It is they who will have forgiveness and an honorable provision. As for those who strive to discredit our revelations, it is they who will suffer the worst torments of the agonizing pain. Those gifted with knowledge clearly see that what has been revealed to you from your Lord, O Prophet, is the truth, and that it guides to the path of the Almighty, the Praiseworthy.
Okay, now we're going to go straight into a demo. Now, over the course of today, we'll inshallah make noughts and crosses in Python. Now, is there anyone here who hasn't played noughts and crosses before? No? Okay. Okay, now we're going to be making this right from scratch. So, first of all, we need to think about the components that are going to be needed for a noughts and crosses game. So, Dai, I want you to play noughts and crosses with me for a second. Give everybody a moment to think. You go first.
Obviously, I'm going to take, I don't know. So tough. I have to go here. Blocked.
Okay, so I know anyone. But I think I've given you all enough time to think about some of the things that you need in a noughts and crosses game. So either, I want to ask for either like hands up, or you can put it on the slido. What things do you need for a noughts and crosses game? What parts are there that make up the game? Okay, the grid, the 9 positions, yeah. Also, is this a good text size for you all to be able to read and see? Yeah? Okay. So, the grid, positions, X and O's, alternating turns. Yep, a way of checking if somebody's won. Two options, you need 2 players. Yeah, so these are all good answers. Okay, so we need to think about where we're going to start from, okay? Now, I'm going to start by making I'm going to make a function, and I'm going to say this is where the program is starting from. Okay, now we can call it start. Oftentimes it's called main. You can call it anything you want though. And we need to make sure that this function is actually called in the first place. If I type print hello here, and if I try run this, I try to run it now, you'll see that nothing happens because the function isn't actually being called. So at the bottom, I'll just call the main function outside of the function. And then if I run that, this time it actually prints off something. Okay, so this is where the program is actually going to start from. Okay, now we need a way of representing the positions. Does anyone have any suggestions?
No, but I have a question.
Yep.
What's main?
Main.
Yeah.
So do you understand what a function is?
Nah.
No. Okay. So a function is a block of code that you could do again and again and again. Okay. So here, if I do the same thing as before, then hello, and if I call this here, I've called it 5 times. Now this block of code is going to run 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything with brackets next to it like this is a function. So print is also a function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And oftentimes in programming, we decide that the first function that should start from, or the starting place, should be the bit that says main.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start from there. Yeah, and we need a way of representing the positions. So does anyone have any ideas how we could do that? Now, if you remember from last time, we could have like 9 different variables. So maybe top left, let's just say it's equal to 0 at the start. Top middle, equal to 0. Top right is equal to equal to 0. And we'll do this 9 times for all of the different positions. Right, this is very tedious, and it's going to be annoying to use later on. So it would be better if we had another way of representing this. So we're going to use a list for this. Is everybody here familiar with what lists are? Is anyone not familiar with this?
What's that? Lifts?
Sorry?
What was that word?
List.
List. Oh yeah, I know what that
Yeah?
is.
Okay. So we're going to represent all of the positions with a list. I'm going to make a new variable, positions. It's going to be a list. Now we need to make 9 positions here, so I'll just say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now this is going to be quite annoying to use because let's say we want to check the top left and the left middle, then we're using 0 and then we're also using number 3. So instead of using just one list, I'm going to make a list inside of this list for each of the 3 rows of the board. So we're going to have 3 lists inside of here. I'll just set these all to 0 at the start. And this will be a lot easier to use. Anyone have any questions about this? Yep.
Is there not a way to just like have like a 0 matrix?
Is there a way to have a 0 matrix?
Or like a 1 matrix, or where something's all the same in that matrix without having to just type that?
There is, but I don't want to make it too complicated. I can show it to you later, maybe. Okay, so we're going to represent the positions like that. Okay, and let's just say an empty space is a 0, and then an x is 1, and an O is 2. Everyone following so far? Yeah? Okay. Now I'm going to print this out and see if it prints out nicely or in a way that will look nice. Okay, now if I run this, it gives me that. So I want the way of printing this out so that it looks nice, so that it displays all of the stuff that I want. So I'm going to make a new function specifically just for printing out the positions. Because it's good to split up your code into different parts, so that's easy to understand what each bit is doing separately. Let's just say, what would be a good function name? Any ideas? Output. Okay, yeah. Let's say output grid. Okay, now we need to go through this and print out in a nice way. So let's say after after each one of these, it should print out like a line, a vertical line. And then after each list, it needs to print out a horizontal line that spans that width. Now I need to go through each of these lists in order. So any ideas how I could go through everything inside of a list? Yep.
Use a for loop.
Yep, using a for loop. So for, and now each one of these things is a row, so I'm just going to say for row in positions. Now if I print out that, just to test that it's working, I need to make sure to call the function from my main function. Output grid. Yeah, it gives me this, and that's a lot nicer. Okay, so now to go from this to printing out blanks for if it's a 0, X's if it's a 1, or circles if it's a 2. Now we need to check what each individual thing is, and we need to go for every single column in each row. So now we're going to do for, because we're looking at one individual thing rather than one whole column, I'm just going to call it a cell instead. So for cell in row. Now, if it's a 0, so equal to 0, and we'll print, say, a blank, and if cell is equal to 1, print X, and then else, print O. Okay, now if I run that, it just gives me 9 of these. What's the problem here that we're having? Any ideas? Sorry?
It's not in a grid.
Yeah, it's not in a grid. So what's happening here is that every time it's printing one of these, it goes onto a new line. Okay, ideally, we don't want it to go onto a new line each time. So there's a few things we could do to fix this. Each time what we could do, we could create a new string, and we could add the characters onto that string, and then print the string out all at once. There are also options with the print function to make it so that it doesn't go onto a new line, but we're just going to make it so that it builds a string each time. So, say, I'll make a new variable called line. I'll say it's an empty string at the start. And then instead of each of these, I'm going to say line equal to line plus that. Okay, now if I run this, it didn't print out anything. Why is it not printing out anything? It's a very simple mistake I've made.
No print command.
Yeah, I'm not printing out the line at the end. Okay, so now if I do that over here, after it's finished making the line in this bit, yeah, it gives me that. If I change the configuration to maybe one there, it gives me this. This is good enough to start off with. We could think about making it look nicer later on. Okay, so now we need a way of allowing each player to change everything. So I'm going to make a new function for that for the game actually starting. Say game. Now what it's going to do in here, it needs to keep track of which player's turn it is, right? So I'm going to have a variable to see which player number it is. So let's say turn is equal to 0. And then at the end I'm going to say turn is equal to 1, and it will change each time. Okay, so now I've got turn equals 0. Now I need to take in the input of where they want to place X for their circle. So the way I do that, I'm gonna need to I'm going to need to take in a new thing. I'm going to make a new variable. Just say position. No, I'll say pos. We need to take it in as an input. Now, what kind of input do we want from the player? We could potentially number each of these spaces 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or we can ask them for a coordinate. So, like a coordinate in maths, that could be 0, 0, that could be 1, 1. Any idea or any preference on how we do this? Okay, what I'll do for now, I'll just take a number. Then, if it's 0, it'll be that. Actually, I've taken the x and the y separately. So I'll say x pos input, and then y pos equal to input. And I'll just say this is 0, this is column 0, this is column 1, this is column 2, this is row 1, this is row 2. Yeah. Is everyone following? Yeah? Okay. So now, let's go on the input, let's go on the x position, let's go on the y position. Now we need to change the position on the grid accordingly. I'm going to say positions. I need to make sure that my positions are both numbers as well. So the way that I do that, I can turn them into numbers by using int. Okay, so then with positions, I'll say position. So this first number that we're using, is that going to access the row or the column? What do you all think? Any ideas? Okay, so it's going to access each one of these individual rows. Now, the reason it accesses one of these individual rows is because if you go in one, you get to that. You'd have to go in twice to get into one of these, one of the pieces of data inside of the columns. So my position here, for each row, I've said this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So I'm going to use the y pos variable over here. And then to get to the correct thing inside of the row, that's where I'll use the x pos. And just for the sake of testing, I'm going to say that it's equal to 2. And because we said before that if it's equal to 2 or if it's not equal to 1 or 0, then it's set to an O. We should see an O printed out after that. I'll call the output grid function here. I'll call the game grid over here, or the game function over here. And if I run that, it gives me the original grid. Now I'll put 2, and I'll put 2. And it hasn't done anything, because this function here, I haven't actually properly called it. If you don't put the brackets on the end of your function, then it doesn't actually do anything. So now if I try that again, if I put 2, I put 2, and you can see it's made this into an O. Okay, so now we need this bit to repeat, and we need it to make sure that it's doing the right player's turn. So here we put a 2, but presumably we would start with an X. Or should we start with X or start with an O? We'll just start with X. So because I said before that 1 is an X, I'm going to make it say 1 over here as well, just to make it easier. And then after this, I need to set turn to the next player's, or the next player's number. So I'm going to say turn. If turn is equal to 1, what should I set turn to in this case? I'll set to 0. And if turn was 0 before, not 0, I should set it to 2, because 2 is what we're using for the circles. If turn is equal to 2, now we can set turn back to 1. Okay, so this is enough to set the turn. But right now, is this enough to make it so that each player will get multiple turns? Yep.
You have to make the positions equal to turn.
Do I have to make the positions equal to turn? Ah, yes, you're right. Yeah, so I should set that to turn. And now we'll set, if it will play 1 turn, we'll set it to a 1, and 1 is for x. If it will play 2 turn, then we'll set it to turn, and 2 is for circle. Yeah. Okay, but right now, is this enough? Yep.
You also need a while true or while game.
Yeah. So we need to make sure that this happens repeatedly. So we're going to use a while loop for that. For now, I'll just say while true. But later on, we're going to have to change this so that it checks if somebody's won each time. Okay, so now I run this, and I put output grid inside of the while loop. Okay, so I enter 2, enter 2. Let's put an X. If I put 1 and 1, what should I get? Where should I get my circle? Yeah, I should get in the middle. Put 1, I put 1. Circle in the middle. Okay, let's say I want to use this point, or this coordinate. What coordinate should I use? As in what number? 2, 0. Okay, let's try that. 2, 0. Yep. Okay, now let's say I want to do 0, 0. Just on the 0 in the corner there. Now, how do I get the x over here?
1, 2.
Yeah, 1, 2. It should have been 2, 1. If I do 1, 2, I did the same thing again. 2, 1, there. But the game hasn't finished yet. And another problem, what problem have I just revealed there? What problems happened over here? Any ideas? Okay, so if you look over here, originally I made this an X. And now over here I made it an O. So in regular noughts and crosses, is somebody able to vary over somebody else? They're not. So right now it's not checking that you can actually put a number in that place, or put a cross or a nought. So later on we'll need to change that. And secondly, right now, even though somebody's won, the game hasn't finished. Okay? And the reason why the game hasn't finished is because we're doing it inside of this while loop. Okay? Because we've got true here, it's just going to keep on doing this until we close the program. Okay, so now we need to modify this program so that it's going to actually check if somebody's won or not. So I'm going to make a new function to check if someone has won. Check. I'm going to call it check winner. Okay, so what are the combinations for somebody to win? What are the combinations for somebody to win? Yeah?
8 different combinations.
Yeah, there's 8 different combinations. Now, there's not an easy way to just check them all, so we're gonna have to. We could sort of check that. We could group some of them together, but we can't check all of them. So some of them will have to be done individually. So let's make a function to check the horizontals first. This one should be the easiest because if it's a row, we're just checking that they're all the same and they're not all 0. We're going to make this take in a row. Now I'm going to check that each thing is the same thing. So first is equal to row 0. That's the first thing in the row. Now, we want to check, first of all, that this isn't a 0. If it's a 0, then that means that the game hasn't properly started yet. So if first is equal to 0, then we should return, the game hasn't finished, so I'm going to say return false. Okay, so now that we're at this part, that means that we know that the first isn't a 0, that means it's actually either a 1 or a 2. Okay, so now we need to check the other two things. Okay, so we check if for, just the item in row. Okay, so now this will be a for loop going for each thing inside of the row. That, and that, and that. Okay, now if item is equal to the first thing, we need to check for all of them though. We can't just check one of them individually or separately and say that we're done. You have to check each one all together. So instead of checking if the item is equal to us, we'll check if it's not equal to us. Here there's an exclamation mark here, it's just that you can't see it. There is one there. Okay, so if item is not equal to first, then that means that the game hasn't finished yet. So we could just return false over here. Okay. Let's say this doesn't work the first time, doesn't work the second time, it doesn't work the third time. That means that they're all the same thing. So in that case, we can return true. Yeah, and that's our check horizontals completed. Okay, now we need to check the verticals. And we'll make this take in a column. Now really, this is just the exact same thing. It's going to be the same thing. The problem with this one though, is that the way that we're representing this, we have each item in a separate list. So, say we're checking the first column, it's in this first list over here. This one's in a separate list. This one is in a separate list as well. So that makes it a lot harder to check. So this time, what we'll do, instead of doing it by using the column, we'll just use we'll use a number to say which column we're looking at. I'll say column number. Okay, now this time we're accessing the positions list. Say position, or the first thing is equal to positions. Now we want to access the first row, so I'll just say 0. And then we want to access the correct column, so I'll say column number, like that. And this bit will be exactly the same as before. Okay. If it's a 0, that means that the game hasn't started. But if it's not a 0, that means we should get to this part of the code. Okay, now we want to check the rest of the items inside of that column. So now this time, I need to go from 0 to 2 with inside of my for loop. Okay, so I'll do it like this for R for row, and range, starting from 0, and we're going up to 2. You want to check if positions are column number is equal to the first thing. And the case that is equal to the first thing, well, it's the same thing we had before. We can't check each thing separately. You have to check them, check if it's not equal to it, and then if it gets past the for loop, that means that we could return true. I'll change that to not equal to. Here I'll put return false, because this is the case where they're not the same. And here I will return true. Okay, let's test that these work. I'll test with check horizontals first. So inside of my check winner function, I'm going to say that it starts off by going through each of the rows, and it's going to pass that into this function, the check horizontals function. So for row in positions, if check horizontals of row, so if that's true, then it should return true. And I want this to happen for each iteration of the game. So instead of it being while true, it's going to be while check winner. Okay, if I run that now. Okay, why is this not working right now? What have I done wrong? Any ideas?
I'm not checking the winner again.
Okay, what's happening is that it's checking if somebody's won. And it's saying that it's only going to do this if somebody's won. So what I should be doing is not while check winner, I need to do while not check winner. Okay, and if I try that again, now it's giving me the chance to enter something. I say 0, 0, let's put the X there. Let's say 1, 1, put the circle there. Let's say 0, 1, put the X there. If I play, say 2, 2, put the circle there. If I say 1, 0, so X there. I say 1, 2, circle over there. Now if I say 0, 2, should do the X in the top right corner. I've done it in the wrong place. Okay. Oh yeah, so there, I've done a row of zeros and it's finished. Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah? Okay. So my check horizontals, that bit's working. And I need to check with the verticals as well. Now, because I want it to do for all of the column numbers, I'll do another for loop for this. For so I'll do another for loop over here for column number in range, and then I'm doing 0 to 2 again. And then I want to call the check verticals function using the column number. Okay, now in the same thing here, if it's true, so if if check verticals returns a true, that means I need to return true over here as well. Okay, now if I run this again, say 0, 0, I say 1, 0, that's it there. Let's see if I say 0, 1, Xer. Okay, what's happening here? Any ideas? I'll give you a bit of a hint. It's to do with this. Yep. Yeah, so I'll print out what R is, and you'll see what it's actually checking. So I wanted to do 0, 1, 2. Okay, let's see what actually happens. So I'll say 0, 0. And you can see it printed at 0, 1 for me. Let me make it clearer. Zero, 0, says r equals 0, r equals 1. Yeah, so it's not actually doing 2. So the way that this range function works in Python, it starts from 0, but it doesn't go up to the last number you put here. So everywhere where I put in range 0 to 2, that should really be in range 0 to 3. Okay, now I'll remove this now. So if I run that again, 0, 0, and if I do 0, 1, and then if I do 0, 0 again, I do 0, 0 again, okay, and now I'll do 0, 2, do 0, 2 again, and now look, I've got a column and the game finished. Yeah, because now it's checking the verticals properly. Okay, so all that's left now is just checking the diagonals. Now checking the diagonals is a bit harder, so I might just do that individually instead. Check diagonals. Okay, so if position 0, 0 is not equal to 0, because if it's equal to 0, that means that it's not, you wouldn't consider this case. So if it's not equal to 0, now we need to check that the top left, the middle, and the bottom right are all the same. So I'm going to check if position, I need to make sure that I'm using the right variable as well. Positions 0, 0 is equal to positions 1, 1, and I also need to be checking that the middle is equal to bottom right. But I don't need to check if the top left is equal to the bottom right. Why would I not need to check that? Yep.
Because equality is transitive.
Yeah, could you give a simple answer that non-computer scientists would understand?
Because if you know the top left is equal to the middle and the middle is equal to the bottom right, you don't need to check top left is equal to it.
Yes, that is right. Okay, so I'll just do position 1, 1 is equal to positions 2, 2. And to make it so that this works for 2 lines, you just need to have a bracket there. Okay, so if this is the case, then it should return true. Then I basically copy this for the other diagonal. Instead of doing 0, 0, we will start from 2, 0. 2, 0 equals 1, 1. And then we need to check 0, 2 is equal to 1, 1. Sorry? Double equals. Oh, yep, that is right. Okay, and if neither of these worked, it should get to this bit, and at that bit it should return false. The game isn't over yet. Okay, so now if I test the diagonal, 0, 0, and then if I do 1, 0, then if I do 1, 1, and then if I do 2, 0, if I do 2, 2, yeah, you have a diagonal here. But something seems to have happened. Okay, so why didn't it actually finish when I did check diagonals? Any ideas? No, I'll give you a clue. There's something I'm not doing inside of this function. Yep. Did you have an idea?
You didn't call the function in the check one.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not actually calling this function. So I've defined it. I'm not actually calling it, so it's not actually going to do anything for now. If I call it here, and if I run this again, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, and then 2, 2. Okay, it still doesn't seem to be working.
Is it because you need to define the function before you call it?
No, so calling the main function over here, it makes it fine because it means that it reads this line, it reads that line, it reads all of the lines down to the. It reads all of the lines down to the bottom, and then it sees this, and so it knows all of the functions by then. If I put this after main, you'll see that it won't work. It's going to crash at trying to do output grid. Actually, wait, no. It'll do output grid fine, but game won't work because the game is defined straight after that. Yeah, so see, this game is not defined because game is defined over here. But if I put it at the bottom, then it gets a chance to read everything in the file. Okay, any other ideas of what's going wrong? Okay, so what we'll try to do, we could print out what each of these values is explicitly. And we expect them all to be 1 if you're doing all x's in the column in the diagonals. I'll do print position 0, 0. One, 1, 2, 2. And I'm expecting it to all be 1s. So it gave me 1 over there. And then it gave me 0, 0. Here now if I do 1, okay, this is going to crash it. Anyone know why this crashed? Yep.
10, it's not a valid.
Yeah, so 10 is trying to access from the list, positions 10, but the list has only got 3 things inside of it, so that caused it to crash. If I run it again, 0, 0, and then 1, 0. If I do 1, 1, if I do 0, 2, and if I do 2, 2, it says that they're all 1. Okay, I'm going to try to put statement inside of here and see if that will fix it. Or that'll tell if it will tell me if it's going to this bit in the first place. Yeah, so 0, 1, 0. Then if I do 1, 1, do 0, 2. If I do 2, 2, it does give me hello. Okay, so this is a big hint for what's going wrong, and I'll give you another hint. It's somewhere in here. Okay, did you get it? Go on.
I think it's because it's not continuously checking for diagonals. That is a full.
That's not that.
Oh.
Yep.
Check pointer isn't returning anything.
Sorry?
Check pointer isn't returning anything. After 60.
Okay, yeah. In this case, it's not returning anything. So the horizontal check failed. The column check failed. It gets to the check diagonals, and this is returning true. Okay, but then check winner itself isn't returning the response of that or the return of that, and we don't want it to either. What we were doing before, we were checking if it was true, and then in the case that it was, that's when we return true. So that's what we need to be doing here as well. So either we just do if that return true, and this time if I run it again, 0 0 0 1. Do 1 1. Yeah, this time it finished. Okay, because this time it's checking it and it's returning true. And the reason why it's important that it returns true is because inside of our while loop, we were checking for this to return true, because when it returns true, that means that the game is finished. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so our Northern Process game is basically done now. So you could have a full game in here. Say we do 0 2. It gave us that x. I do 0 0. If I do 1 1. If I do 2 2, gave me the circle there. If I do 0 2, it did it in the wrong place. What's the problem that the game is running into? So it's done. What's the problem that it runs into now? Yep.
I think you can like change values that are already changed.
Yeah, so you can write it in the same place that's already been written in before. So that means that we need to check if there's a number there before we actually put the value into there. Any ideas about how we could go about doing that? An if statement. Okay, what would we check for?
Check if it's not if it's 0 or not.
Yeah. So before we set equal to turn, we need to check if it's equal to 0 beforehand. So if that is equal to 0, when it's equal to 0, that means that nobody's put a number in there. So that's when we could make it equal to turn. Okay. So we'll just fix it now. Okay, I do 0 0. Try to do 0 0 again. Okay, and now if I do 0 2. Okay, the player 1 got another turn, but player 2 didn't get their turn again. So how would I change this so that that player 2 gets a turn?
Indent the F statement.
Indent it.
No, the one is changing the turn.
Ah, this one.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, yep. And then if I do 1 1, do 0 0 again. Now, we just failed on the x1. It should still be on the x1. So if I do 2 2, we're expecting there to be an x put in this bottom right place. And it worked. This is an interesting way of doing it. I was thinking of doing an extra while loop to check it, but this way works as well. Okay, how can we make this a little bit more clear to the user though? So if they fail, how can we make it clear to the user that they have another chance?
Very nice.
Sorry?
Very nice.
Yeah, so we can have an else statement after this. So if it's equal to 0, that means they've done something, they've done it in the right place. If it's not equal to 0, then we could print we tried in a place that already had something. 0 0 0 0, and it gives you the message this time. Any questions about this? No? Okay. We've got 10 minutes left. Is there any features that you'd like me to add before we finish?
How about making the grid look a bit
Okay, yeah, we could do that. So output grid. Right now, all it's doing is this. Yeah. Let's make it so that it does a vertical bar before each thing. So I'll do. Fine. Yeah, now it's going to add this vertical bar before it adds any of these cells. Okay, the way this is looking weird is because of the way that my laptop has things set up. It automatically converts it into that. Okay, but right now this is only adding before. We also want to add a vertical bar at the end as well. So I'll do this outside of the for loop. 9 plus 9 plus bar. Okay, and now we sort of have it. Okay. Now we also want to put the horizontal lines as well. So what we'll do for each row, before each row, print that. Well, I want to do it, say, 9 times. So you could do this in Python. It just repeats the character that many times. Okay, maybe I should do 8 instead, or 7. Okay, does that look a little bit better? Okay, instead of using that, I'll do a hyphen. Okay, now my tone is glitching out. Delete this and make a new one. That looks okay. I could do another one after that as well. So I have it outside of the for loop. Okay, now if I run that, there, one line there, one line there, one line there, one line there. Okay. Any more features that you can think of adding? Yep.
It's not something to add. I just had a question.
Yep.
You know when you do the thing where you're editing multiple lines at the same time and you're writing the same thing. How do you do that?
You mean like if I do? And now all of them are Control D. Yep. There's a lot of VS Code shortcuts. You can highlight a bunch of lines and then indent or dedent using Control and the square brackets. You can highlight a whole line by doing Control L. If I'm in the middle of a line and I want to make a new line directly underneath without having to go to the end and doing like that, you do Control Enter. If I want to do the same thing but above, Control Shift Enter. What else is there? If you hold down Alt, you can swap lines with each other. If you select multiple lines and do it, you can shift up a whole block up and down. If you hold down Alt, I think, you can make multiple cursors like this as well. If you do Shift and Alt. So if you want to print the same thing multiple times and you want to do it that way, instead of with a for loop. I use the home and end keys a lot to go to the start and the end of a line. Any more shortcut questions? Any more? No? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? You can put it on the slider as well. Anything you would like me to add to the game?
So that it's your turn, like you won.
I'll say that it's your turn and you. Okay, yeah, that's very simple to do. So after the while loop, print player let's see, turn 1. Okay. 0 0 0 1 1 1 0 2 2 2. It says player 2 1. Okay, it's done the wrong person. Any ideas why I did the wrong person?
I'll ask like what is because it changes time before it prints.
Okay, that's right. What's your question?
Why not just doing? How did you do this print? Because normally what I
Yes.
do is just output the variable itself. But why is that different?
Okay, so this is a special type of string in Python. It's called an F string. You just put F at the start of the string, and then you use the curly braces, and you put your variable name inside of it, and then it prints out inside of it. It's very useful for debugging. If you do if I do print F, you make a variable called something is equal to hello, and do something is equal inside of that. It's going to say something is equal to hello. Okay, there it is. It didn't say it before. So if you just do equal after it, it'll tell you the value of your variable, and that's useful for when you're doing tests and stuff like that. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we finish off? No? You can put on the slider as well. Okay, I think we'll just finish off then. Thank you for coming. Jazakallah khair.